Hello and welcome again. So, another information that you should know after creating your virtual machine is to know the file created with those virtual machine, where there are the file of each of those virtual machine, where is the data saved, and the kind of the file created by ESXi hypervisor in the hard driver. So to do that, we need to go to our data store right here, and we click data store browser to see the different file that we have in our data store. So if you remember, the ISO file is empty. Then we have Win 2012 R2, and if you see right here, we have three file with three different extension. The first file you see with the name of the virtual machine, you see Windows 2012 R2, here Windows 2012 R2 minus 0 and .vmdk. This file is one of the important files for each virtual machine exists in your host. You should have this file vmdk and the other file vmx. This two file is very important for each virtual machine. So what is this two file? The first file vmx, that start with the name of the virtual machine .vmx, is the file that have the data or the information about the hardware. For example, this virtual machine have 4 GB of RAM. This information exists in this file. I have one CPU exists right here. I have, for example, 2.5 gigahertz of speed. I have a network adapter. I have all the information about the hardware exists in this file. And the second file, vmdk, is the virtual hard driver or virtual machine disk. This is the hard driver of the virtual machine. And logically, there are no machine can be work without having the hard driver and without having the resource like RAM, processor, etc. So this is the two important file. As you will see here in this picture, you will find that we have the configuration file that's created with the name of the virtual machine .vmx, and then we have the vmdk file, that is the disk descriptor file. This is the disk descriptor file that have information about the virtual hard driver. Then we have some other file. We'll see it in detail one by one, but the most important is each virtual machine have two important files, the vmdk and the vmx. vmdk, the virtual hard driver, and the vmx, the hardware configuration file. Then we have some other file right here. For example, this vmsd is a file about the snapshot, content information about the snapshot, but we still not work with the snapshot. We'll cover it later. So if we check the other virtual machine right here, you will find that we have the name of the virtual machine .vmdk and virtual machine name .vmx, those important files. This 0 right here, minus or dash 0, it means the hard driver number 1. If we create a virtual machine with two hard driver, you will find that we have virtual machine name minus or dash 0.vmdk and another file call it virtual machine dash 1 vmdk. And for example, the third hard driver also will have dash 1, dash 2, dash 3, etc. This is meaning the number of the hard driver. Then the vmx and some other file right here. For example, the vmsd is the snapshot file. We have some log file. This log contains the information or the action or the task that happened to this virtual machine, because here we don't have any log because I create this virtual machine without do anything inside it. But this one I try to install the Windows server, so I have some log file about what I did in this virtual machine. And also some other file does not show up until you power on the virtual machine. For example, here we have Windows 7 is powered on. That means if we check the folder of the Windows 7, you will see some other new file right here. as you will see, I have virtual machine name minus 0.vmdk and the vmx file, this one. And as you see, this is a temporary file. That means the virtual machine is powered on, so this one loaded in the memory of the host, and some other file. To see a big image about the different files that we have, so for example, the VSWP is a swap file. As you will see, the virtual machine name .vswp. We have the BIOS file in VRAM, this one right here. This in VRAM is information about the BIOS. Also, we have, for example, log file, all the virtual machine, all the information about the log. Template file, vmtx, is about the template file. Raw device map filer contains the vmdk, the virtual machine name minus rdm.vmdk. Also, we have the disk, the hard driver, vmdk, the disk data file, flat.vmdk. We have suspend state file. When we suspend the virtual machine, it creates a file called virtual machine name.vmss. We can't see it right here because we don't suspend this virtual machine yet. If we chose, for example, here to suspend this virtual machine and chose suspend, this file will created with the data of the virtual machine in that times when we chose to suspend the machine. We have the snapshot file. When we create snapshot, it's saved in the file called vmsd. Also, snapshot state file, vmsn, the state that's content information about how much snapshots we create. So for example, we have 3 or 4 snapshots. This file contains the information about each of the snapshot. Then we have snapshot disk file about the disk. And another information right here, if we check the vmdk file, that means the virtual hard driver, you will see that we have a size of 8.98 gigabyte. This is the capacity or the size of that file equal the size of the used data in this virtual machine. If you remember, when we create this virtual machine, we chose a 10 hard driver. That means we give it about 14 gigabytes, but he only take the used space, the tick and 10, because we chose 10, so he took only 8 gigabytes. That's the space used from the hard driver. If we create a virtual machine and give the hard driver 14 gigabytes and chose that hard driver will be tick hard driver, you will see that the file size is 14 gigabyte and not only the used space. So this is an important information. You should know that the tick and 10 show up right here. If we give a hard driver a tick option, the file will take the full space of the hard driver. That means if we give it 14 gigabytes, he will get 14 gigabytes, but here take only the used space. So this is the most important file right here. Of course, here is the list of those files. You can take information about it, but the most important is the configuration file and the VMX file. All the other things, it show up only when the virtual machine powered on, and we have the log file. If the size of this log reach this size, he creates another one with the different size, and then another one, etc. So he separates the log file to avoid have a big file in the hard drive. So this is the most important file in virtual machine. And of course, when you turn off, some file will not show up.